Can we have your leftovers? 4 hungry kids requested. He looked up and saw their blue eyes. The rain hadn't stopped for 3 days. It came down in sheets, silver curtains draping the ruined city where skyscrapers leaned like broken teeth. The war had ended months ago, but peace had never really come. Most people had left what was left of the world behind, except for those too poor or too stubborn to go. Liam was both. He sat under the collapsed awning of what used to be a bakery, his small fire flickering in the middle of the rubble. The bread he'd scavenged from the old supply bunker that morning was finally warming over the flames. He'd rationed himself carefully, half now, half for tomorrow. When the first sound came, a faint scuff of boots on wet pavement, he thought it was a rat. But rats didn't whisper. "Do you think he'll share?" a small voice murmured. "Don't ask yet," came another, older voice. "Let's watch first." Liam didn't move. The city was dangerous. Anyone who survived knew not to show fear or softness. But curiosity was a harder thing to kill. He turned his head slightly and froze. For children stood in the shadow of a broken wall. They were filthy, clothes hanging in torn rags, but what struck him most were their eyes. Bright, unnatural blue that glowed faintly even in the rain. Not human blue, but the shimmering hue of the northern sky. Hybrids. He'd heard rumors that some of the alien refugees from the war had left children behind. Half human, half something else. The government had wanted them all contained, but containment didn't always mean safety. "Come out," Liam said quietly. The smallest one stepped forward first, her tiny hands clutching a soaked blanket. "Please, mister. Can we have your leftovers?" Liam's heart twisted. The bread on the fire was barely enough for himself. But the way they looked at it, eyes wide, hollow with hunger, made him feel like a monster just for hesitating. He sighed and broke the loaf in half again, handing the bigger piece toward them. "Here. But only if you sit close to the fire. You'll freeze out there." The children exchanged a quick look, then hurried forward. They sat in a tight circle, steam rising from their soaked clothes as they devoured the bread. Liam watched them silently. The oldest looked about 13, her tangled hair silver blonde and streaked with soot. She noticed him watching. "Thank you," she said, her voice too calm for a child's. "We haven't eaten in 2 days. What happened to your parents?" Liam asked. "They went back to the sky," the second oldest said between bites. His voice trembled. "They said they'd return when it was safe." Liam swallowed hard. The sky probably meant the alien ships that had fled orbit months ago. No one believed they were coming back. He poked the fire with a stick, avoiding their eyes. "You shouldn't be out here alone. There are scavengers, soldiers, worse things." The silver-haired girl tilted her head. "You're alone too." He met her gaze, and for a heartbeat, he saw something flicker behind her eyes. Something not entirely human, a faint shimmer that made the air seem to pulse. He looked away first. "That's different." "No," she said softly. "It's the same." They sat in silence for a while, listening to the rain drumming on the metal roof. The youngest had fallen asleep with her head in the girl's lap, crumbs still on her chin. "Do you have a name?" Liam asked finally. "Arya," she replied. "These are Kale, Mina, and Toby. I'm Liam." She nodded, then looked up at the dark skyline. "We used to live under the city. There were others like us. But the humans found the tunnels. We ran." Liam's stomach sank. He'd heard about those raids. People called it cleansing, as if children could be a threat. "You can stay here for the night," he said quietly. "The fire will last a while." Arya's eyes softened. Why help us? Liam hesitated. The answer was too complicated. Maybe it was because he'd lost his own daughter 2 winters ago. Maybe because he was tired of watching people vanish and pretending it didn't matter. Because you asked, he said simply. She smiled faintly. That's a good reason. By morning the storm had stopped. Pale sunlight leaked through the clouds, turning puddles into mirrors. Liam woke to the sound of laughter, the soft kind, fragile as glass. The children were chasing each other around the broken fountain nearby, their feet splashing through the water. For a moment it almost felt like the world before. He tore his last piece of bread into smaller bits, saving one for each of them. When he looked up again, Arya was watching him with that same steady gaze. You shouldn't stay here, he told her. People come through scavenging. If they see you. We know, she interrupted gently. We move at dusk. He nodded. Where will you go? North, she said. There's a forest beyond the city. We heard others went there to wait for the ships. Liam wanted to tell her the truth, that no ships were coming, that hope was just another kind of hunger, but he couldn't. Not when she looked at him like that, fierce and young and determined to believe. Instead, he stood and rummaged through his pack. He pulled out an old compass, the one he'd kept since before the war. Its glass was cracked, the needle shaky, but it still pointed north. Take it, he said, pressing it into her hand. So you don't lose your way. Arya blinked, then closed her small fingers around it. We won't forget you. He smiled, but it felt heavy. Just promise me one thing. Stay together. She nodded, and for a heartbeat, the air shimmered again, soft blue light haloing her and the children. It faded as quickly as it came. Then they were gone, slipping between the ruins like shadows, their laughter echoing faintly behind them. Liam sat by the dying fire, staring at the empty space where they'd been. The city was silent again, but the warmth they'd left behind still lingered, like sunlight on his skin. He whispered to the ashes, not sure who he was talking to. Take care of them, wherever the sky leads. And for the first time in months, Liam looked up, not for danger but for hope. As the last of their small footprints disappeared into the mist, Liam felt the emptiness settle around him again, but it wasn't the same kind of loneliness. It was quieter, warmer. He stirred the ashes of his fire, watching a thin curl of smoke rise toward the broken skyline. The rain had washed the city clean, at least for now. The streets glistened like rivers of glass, and somewhere in the distance, sunlight broke through a hole in the clouds. He thought of Arya's promise, "We won't forget you." He smiled faintly, though his chest ached. "Don't forget yourselves," he whispered. The small compass glinted in his memory, that cracked bit of metal pointing north, the direction of hope. Maybe they'd find others. Maybe the forest really did hide survivors, or maybe it hid nothing but silence. Still, he liked to think of them walking there, 4 blue-eyed children with pieces of the stars still in their veins. He gathered his pack and slung it over his shoulder. The world was still broken, still cruel, but something inside him had changed. He couldn't stay here, not anymore. So Liam started walking too, heading north, following the faintest line of sunlight across the ruined streets. Each step felt lighter than the last, like he was being pulled toward something unseen. Behind him, the fire's last ember flickered out. Ahead, the wind carried the soft echo of laughter, high, bright, and almost impossible.